Good morning, everyone. I'm back with another update. It has been such a long time since I've had a chance to film a video for you guys, and there's so much I want to say. I'm actually finishing up a night shift. I just ended. It's about 7:20 in the morning, and I'm heading home. So I'm just going to talk through some of the things that have been happening in my months since the absence, and I can't wait to hear how things are going for you guys. So let me talk a little bit at first about why I've been silent in these past few months. The truth is, it's been a really tough couple of months for two reasons. One is that match is a lot more emotionally exhausting than I think I ever thought possible. It's been a very, very long waiting game, and I felt completely powerless some of the time, like it was out of my hands. I wasn't sure if interviews were coming or when they were coming. I was constantly glued to my phone, refreshing my email. I woke up, and that's the first thing I did. I woke up in the middle of the night and I checked my phone. During gym, I had my phone also on me, so I never really had a chance to just turn completely off because I was addicted to the idea of seeing a no reply from aamc.org, which I think a lot of people who are going through this process can relate to. As interviews did come, I felt a little more reassured, but there was always that uncertainty, what if it doesn't go well, and the anxiety of having an interview that you really wanted to go well, but you felt like you blew. So there was that as well. I was, of course, very grateful for any interviews that came my way. And it really did help make some of this anxiety better. But then the other thing that was tough, that was a lot tougher than I thought it would be, was the fact that I've started working now in emergency medicine. And working and student life are very, very different. So my routine that I was so good at and got used to in medical school, I felt like I no longer had control of my life because I wasn't in control of when I was working. I ended up staying late at work a lot of times to just finish up paperwork. I would spend 13, 14 hours sometimes away from home, and then I'd get home tired and sleep. I'd wake up the next morning and I just want to sleep until my next shift. So that part was a little bit hard. It was difficult to study next to this. The awesome study routine I had in med school, I was unable to get back into. I couldn't study for hours a day because there were always things like life things that were pulling at me, and of course match things. I had to send emails, letters of interest. I had to send follow-ups and thank yous and do research and things like that. So I really felt like I wasn't progressing in my theoretical knowledge, which was bothering me. Not to mention, I had a month where two of the patients that I was closely following actually ended up dying. And they were two of my first patients that I lost, patients that I'd taken care of, and I was gripped with thoughts of if I'd done this differently, or if I'd noticed that sooner, or if we had XYZ on hand, would he have lived? I don't know if people talk about the emotional part of being a doctor enough. Maybe they do and I just missed it. But that part was definitely unexpected for me. I knew I would be affected by patient deaths, but I didn't realize how deeply it can affect you, how deeply it might affect you your first few times. So that was very hard. I talked to the patients' families. I told them to come in and say goodbye. And it's a difficult conversation to have as a young doctor. So that was also quite difficult. So I've been pretty down about these things, which made it very, very hard to talk positively about anything going on in my life. But I do want to share some of the amazing things that have happened in my absence. So let's start with the match. So, much to my surprise and pleasure, I did end up receiving interview invites from a lot of phenomenal programs that I could only dream of. I got a lot of great feedback on my application. I was told multiple times that they thought I was a strong applicant. I had somebody tell me that the The personal statement I wrote was the second best that she had read this season, which felt amazing because I'd spent so many hours working on that personal statement, and it was, of course, very personal to me. So that was awesome to hear. I had people ask me about all of my accomplishments, comment on my volunteer work. It was really quite an honor, and I'm still, no matter what happens, I'm still very happy to have made it this far. As the interviews rolled in, I became a little more certain that I might succeed, and the more interviews I got, the more reassured I got. Every once in a while, that moment of doubt sinks in, thinking to myself, no, what if I don't match? I'm not going to match. I won't match. But statistically, I reassure myself that I've done everything I can, and it's out of my hands now, and I've done a good job. So that's been one of the really great things that have happened in these past few months since my absence. And then the other thing is that work has been pretty awesome. Besides the fact that, I've had sad things happen and I feel often overwhelmed and like I'm not learning anything, the reality is that I am becoming a better doctor. I'm getting much better at my clinical assessment. I'm getting more confident with medications I give and tests I get drawn and labs I order, which it feels like I'm learning, but I'm learning so gradually that sometimes I don't even notice I'm learning until it whacks me in the face and I'm thinking to myself, oh wow, 2 months ago I would never have known to do that, or yesterday I messed this up and today I did it right. I succeeded at my first lumbar puncture for a suspected meningitis case. The patient ended up not having meningitis, but I got to do my first LP and it was amazing, and I got it in on my first try, and it was champagne tap, meaning there was no blood. So that was phenomenal. I did my first chest tube. That one wasn't a success, unfortunately, but you try, you get your hands in there and you have the chance to learn hands-on, and it's so awesome. I've also had patients ask me for my phone number so that they could call me with questions, or ask me if they could come to my office hours, which is kind of like the ultimate compliment, because basically they're saying that they trust you and they want to spend or get more medical advice from you. So that was also really nice. I've had really interesting cases. I've had patients where I felt like I made a difference in their life. And all in all, that part has been really amazing. I'm excited to get into residency. I'm thrilled at the prospect of training at one of these phenomenal places that I've been applying to. And I'm curious to see where this takes me. But that being said, this past few months have been a phenomenal experience. So looking forward, what happens next? Well, one thing is the rank lists are due. I had my last interview a few weeks ago in February. Actually, 2 weeks ago, or 2 or 3 weeks ago. Yeah, in February. And then I started thinking about my rank list. I wasn't sure how I would rank the middle ones. I knew where I would rank 1 and 2 for sure, and I've known that for a long time. But I wasn't really sure about the rest of it. And to be honest, I haven't thought too much about it. When rank list opened, I think on February 2nd, I remember seeing the email and thinking to myself, you know what? I'm just not going to think about it. I'll let it come to me. And then a few nights ago, I wasn't able to sleep in the middle of the night, so I started putting together my rank list, looking at some of the things that I was considering, and I thought to myself, okay, well, these are the things important to me. These are the things that that I've thought about, that I've discussed with my family, and I started writing those out. So what is important to you might be different than what's important to me. But I've reached out to a ton of people, and this is some of the things that they have said about what we should look at. This is going to be kind of emergency medicine focused because that's what I'm interested in, but a lot of it overlaps. So for instance, one of the things that everyone says to look at is location. Location is important because if you're close to family, a lot of people feel like they have the support that they need in times of distress. And I do get that. I think that's really important to have support. And I understand why people rank places based on location. I personally find location to be slightly less of a determinant because I find myself being able to be happy in very many different places and finding a support system in those places. But it's definitely one of those things that most people look at. I then started thinking about other things, and people have pointed out that most of what we think are important are actually not that important. Things like salary and benefits, they end up not mattering because they are very similar across the board. Things like, what else am I thinking of? Things like ED volume are not really so important, or as important as, say, the volume to resident ratio. Whether it's a level 1 or level 2 trauma, I thought that was the end-all be-all, but I'm now realizing that a level 2 trauma is very much the same as a level 1 trauma in many ways, except perhaps in the research aspect. So I've been doing a lot of soul searching and trying to figure out exactly what I want with my rank list. And I'm really excited. I don't think I'm ready to certify yet, but if you're following along, you might realize that the season is drawing to a close soon. Match is in about 2.5 weeks. So it's almost there. We almost did it. We're so close to the end. The final thing that I think is important to consider in this very, very long episode is SOAP. So SOAP is the supplementary application. In case you don't match, you have the opportunity to SOAP into a position in the week of match. So from Monday, when you find out if you match or not, to Friday, you have this chance. I know Match a Resident has a nice little tutorial. Let's just wait for that tram to go by. So Match a Resident has a nice little information session about SOAP, and NRMP and ERAS are also doing a joint webinar on the SOAP process, because this year it's really different. The schedule this year is completely different than it used to be, so it's important to think about that when you're preparing for match day, because nobody wants to not match, but one of the best things you can do about not matching is just being prepared for that day. So even though I never really thought of having a plan B, and I still don't think of having a plan B, I do think I'm going to rework my personal statement in order to incorporate if I don't match, or in order to incorporate a section about it that I can send to programs if I end up not matching. So yeah, that's about it for today. I thank you for listening to this very, very long walk home and for being with me through this whole time. I just wanted to let you know that even though match ends in a few weeks, I'm not gonna disappear. I feel like being an IMG is now a part of my identity. It's who I am, and I feel the need to help other fellow students just like myself get through this arduous process. So you guys can count on me. I'm gonna be around doing my best to answer questions, and I hope you will reach out. For those of you going through the match this season, I wish you all the best. I wish you get everything you've ever hoped for, and no matter what happens, we have to be proud of how far we came, because we've done an amazing job. So yeah, that's it for today. Bye everyone.